Hey guys, musicninjamat here. Finally, Ant-Man and the Wasp came out in the UK. I got a chance to go and see it. Naturally, there will be spoilers in this video as I'm talking about the whole film and my reaction to it. Straight away with this film, I will say that it was okay. Like, there aren't really any bad Marvel films lately. They smash it each time. But because some are really good, ones like these feel like they fall a bit flat. Ant-Man and the Wasp is not a bad movie, it's just not as good as some of the ones they've been releasing lately. The plot of this film is a lot more simple than I thought it was going to be. It's all about saving Janet from the quantum realm. I assumed that was going to be like the first act, but it's the entire movie, and the whole movie takes place over, what, 2 days? 3 days? And it feels a bit iffy writing-wise, in that nothing's straightforward. It's that classic, oh, all we need to do is this. Oh, but now we need to do this. Oh, but now we need to do this. And it ends up just being like a wild goose chase throughout the film. Especially when it comes to Hank Pym's lab, and how most of the movie is just somebody steals it, they take it back. Somebody steals it, they take it back. And you end up being like, this isn't the best writing, but that's only as much as the story goes. Stuff like the dialogue and the characters are all very enjoyable. I think the movie just feels very rushed in places, and it's also very jarring that we've just had Infinity War, and because this is what's come next, I think that's another reason it falls flat, is because everyone's going, what's the Infinity War tie-ins? What's going on with Infinity War? Where's Hawkeye? Where's this person? And then you go, oh, it doesn't answer anything. Oh, it's a self-contained movie. Don't get me wrong, self-contained movies are good, but because of what's currently happening in the MCU, everyone was just like, well, this feels disappointing. I also find in the Ant-Man movies, the science is very iffy, and it's all to do with just what the writers want to happen. Because sometimes when stuff shrinks down, it keeps its mass, other times it doesn't. Because stuff like the shrinking lab, that should be impossible for them to carry. Also, naturally, there's a lot missing from the trailers. Just a couple of lines of dialogue when they're talking about going high and low, and Wasp is like, why would I go low? I have wings. There's just a lot of moments like that that are missing. So with the characters, obviously Ant-Man himself is just an absolute delight. We see that this movie takes place just before Infinity War, so Scott has been on house arrest for the last 2 years and just kind of living a sensible life, trying to stay out of trouble for the sake of his family. Naturally, of course, his humour is some of the best in the film. You've just got to love Paul Rudd. I loved seeing Wasp on screen. She has the best action scenes, because whereas Ant-Man's very clumsy in his fighting, she's properly trained, and it's so interesting seeing the different ways she grows and shrinks not only herself, but objects to help her fight. Luis and the gang are back, and sadly to say, like, it was nice seeing them, but so much of the humour that fell flat came from them. This is just my opinion, of course, but I just didn't laugh when they were on screen. It just felt awkward to me. We've got kind of 3 different forces working against our heroes and inconveniencing them as they're just trying to save Janet. Firstly, we have Sonny Birch, who is just your classic suit and tie criminal. He's got very Justin Hammer-esque qualities about him, in that he can be really quite goofy, but also incredibly menacing when he wants to. However, Sonny doesn't really hold a candle to Justin Hammer. But his motivations are he wants to get his hands on Hank Pym's lab, because of course it's worth a lot of money on the black market. Ghost is interesting because she doesn't feel like a huge imposing villain, realistically. It's one of the first times I think Ghost has been portrayed as a woman and having an identity, and I think that's more interesting than the Ghost in the comic books. Her father is actually Elias Starr, who is Egghead, who's an Ant-Man villain in the comics, and with her story, it's Elias and Hank Pym were working together on this quantum tunnel project, and she says, well, Hank Pym had my father discredited and fired, Hank later points out actually he was just a traitor. But Elias then had to work on the project on his own, and it ended up going wrong. There was an explosion and Elias and his wife were killed, and then their daughter, Ghost, she ended up getting her powers. However, her powers put her in excruciating pain, and she's actually dying from them because she's just being ripped apart and put back together so often. This makes Ghost a lot more sympathetic and gives her some depth, which is something Marvel are really trying to do with their villains lately. Ghost's plan really is that she finds out that Janet is in the quantum realm, and she feels if she can take the quantum energy that Janet's been absorbing from her, then she can heal herself, but she might kill Janet in the process. But we can see why Ghost would be against Hank Pym. She kind of blames him for everything. Now, this was an interesting one because Ghost is actually working with Bill Foster, and Bill Foster in the comics is Goliath. There's hints to him being Goliath in this film because that's the project he worked on with Hank Pym, and him and Hank had a falling out and just haven't really spoken in a while. And when we're introduced to Bill, he helps them out, and then it's later revealed he's working with Ghost, but only in as much as he was the agent that was sent out when she was a child, when her parents had died. He could see how much pain she was in, and he just wants to help her. But there's a point where Ghost is saying, well, Scott Lang, he has a daughter, why don't we kidnap her? And Bill's like, no, I will not help you if that's how you're going to behave. He's like, you do a lot of questionable things, and I try to turn a blind eye to them, but don't go too far, or I will just stop helping you. And more interestingly, by the end of the film, of course, Ghost does end up getting healed. She actually gets healed by Janet herself, and then Ghost says to Bill, look, you haven't hurt anyone, you just leave. And he says, no, I'm staying with you. So those two are kind of on the run together. The actress that actually plays Cassie in this film does such a good job, because usually child actors, especially in Marvel films, like Iron Man 3, can be really annoying. So it's nice that she works so well when interacting with Scott, and I like as well she's being set up more and more to be almost like the face of a young Avengers film, if we ever got that. The final kind of force against our heroes, because we've got our villains in Ghost and in Sonny Birch, and the third force is actually Jimmy Woo, who's an FBI agent, and he's the one that's just keeping an eye on Scott while he's on house arrest. The thing is, Jimmy isn't a villain, he's just an obstacle in their way. While Scott's doing Ant-Man stuff, he's always trying to catch Scott out. Jimmy Woo is actually probably the best bit of humour in this movie, and I just think he's a great addition to the MCU. Janet and Hank are both great in this. Hank is just so driven to get his wife back, and it's very emotional seeing him go through that journey. And Michelle Pfeiffer as Janet is wonderful. When you see earlier flashbacks of her just being a mother, it's great. One thing that is strange is that when Janet does come back, yeah, she has like quantum realm healing powers, and I'm wondering what will kind of happen with that. The only other character I want to mention is Sonny Birch's FBI informant. It's where Sonny kind of gets all of his knowledge from and how he's able to operate the way he does. There's a guy called Stoltz. He was actually originally credited as Jeffrey Ballard, who's Centurion in the comic books. The thing with this film and with its characters, it's the family interactions. It's Scott and Cassie, it's Hank, Janet and Hope. It's those family moments that make you just want to jump up and cheer for this movie. Some of the things I do love about the film as well is how much they address and how self-aware it is. So at one point, they've all got caps and sunglasses on, and Scott's like, this isn't a disguise. So everyone can tell who we are, because the big trope in Marvel movies is sunglasses and a cap is what everyone uses to stay hidden. We get to see Luis as well tell another story in the same manner as the first film, where it cuts to the characters, but they have his voice and they're acting with his mannerisms, and it's just so funny and so well done. I also really liked the music in this film, especially the use of music in the very last battle. The only other thing I can really comment on is, of course, the post-credit scene. The very last one was just of the giant ant just playing on Scott's drum kit. That angered the crap out of me. I really wanted to see Hawkeye and see what he was up to. However, the first post-credit scene, mid-credit scene, was the gang with a smaller quantum tunnel, and they're saying, right, we're going to send Scott in, and Scott's going to collect quantum healing energy, which I guess is what Janet was full of, but they're actually able to collect it. Scott goes in, and there's Janet, Hank, and Hope sort of manning the controls, saying, don't worry, we'll pull you back out. And then, of course, it happens, what we all thought would happen. Scott's there in the quantum realm, and he's saying, okay guys, let me out, let me out. You look, and they've all turned to dust, because Hope, Hank, and Janet have actually gone with the finger snap. Thing with this is, it kind of explains where Scott was. He's stuck. But the only sad thing that kind of annoyed me, it means we've introduced Wasp, Hope now, and you've killed her, so she can't really play a major role in Avengers 4, surely. But Ant-Man and the Wasp, it's a fun, light-hearted movie, and I think the only reason I didn't enjoy it more was because it's coming off the heels of Infinity War, and it's a completely different tone and shift in the story, when really all I want at the moment is more Infinity War stuff. But anyway guys, that is my reaction to Ant-Man and the Wasp. Let me know what you thought about the movie. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out. Check out the social media links in the description below. Don't forget to explore the channel, especially the playlists, and I will see all of you in the next one.